Yes, it's getting filmed pre and post finale. Hi, I'm Eric from my phone and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk about something different, which is Survivor. Oh my god. Okay, I have watched Survivor since I think I was 10 or 11. I'm not quite sure exactly when, but I know my first season that I watched was Redemption Island, and I've watched every season since. I actually haven't seen any season before. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And yeah, I was born I think around the time of season 2. So, Survivor's been around for about as long as I have. And while I don't talk about it much on this channel, I really want to talk about it now because this season has been one of my favorite seasons in recent memory. Definitely post-COVID. And I don't know, I haven't remembered a time in which I was this engaged. Maybe season 40, but I don't know. What I want to talk to you about today is give my thoughts through each episode of the season going into the finale, and then discussing the finale in a different outfit because it will be the next day. I am filming this on the Wednesday that the finale will happen. However, in Germany, it'll come out really early on Thursday for me. So I am going to just film this now so it's already pre-prepared. I can't spoil the finale for you if I'm wearing this. All right? So we're going to go generally throughout the trajectory of the season and then talk about the finale after some movie magic. I also would like to preface this that ever since Second Chance season, my parents and I have 2 moms and I'm an only child, we always pick 6 people each to run the season with. So we each have different people. If there's a 20-person season, 2 people just are neutral and don't really apply to us. But it's kind of like fantasy football where the first person who gets voted out will get 1 point to whoever had them. The second person out gets 2 points, third person 3 points, etc. 14th person voted out gets 14 points. The winner gets 18 in this normal season. I'm going to preface this because I think some of my excitement is also because of the people I have on this season. I'm notoriously very bad. So I stacked the deck this way by having 2 people from each original tribe. I had Caleb and Emily from Lulu. I had Dee and Julie from Reba. And I had Katura and Kendra from Bello. That doesn't mean I don't like other people or that I necessarily loved all of my people, although I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, let's just dive into the season and I'll give you all my thoughts about it. Hopefully it will not be an incredibly long video. Another disclaimer, and I might have more that show up later, but my one disclaimer now is that these are all real people and I'm only going to be talking about them with what I've seen on the show and generally how they played the game or just their general personality. I'm not going to be ranking them by personality, but just within the confines of the show and how I felt and probably how the producers felt. I'm not quite sure about that, but I feel like with these 90-minute episodes, which I do really like, by the way, especially because somehow I'm able to watch it online with no ads, thanks VPN. Me saying a statement about a player does not reflect on them personally. I'm sure they are all wonderful people. I didn't really have that many people who I actively dislike throughout the season. Maybe like a villain or someone who's like, they just won't go home, or they got rid of one of my favorite players. That doesn't mean I dislike them. It's all in good fun. Any of you who were on the show would like to talk to me or leave a comment or whatever, my inbox is open. My comments are open. I'm not a big enough channel at this point to not see your comment. Also, because I'm not a recap channel and I'm not trying to be, I'm just mainly going to talk about each player as they go home because it's relevant at that point, and then I actually get to talk about everyone. When we were initially picking people, I had initial impressions of them in an arrow scale, and then I will also show what it will be after having seen them play in the game. Anyway, let's finally get into this. So we have to start episode 1 with talking about Hannah. An icon, honestly. She just really wanted her nicotine. God bless her. I personally thank Hannah a lot because Emily would have definitely gone home that episode if not for her. And as we know where Emily is at this point, I personally appreciated that rather than just getting the 1 measly point. I honestly really thank Hannah for her service. I also just don't mind quitting unless it's someone who is my person. That is really the only issue I have. I had a lot of men last season, and the only people who went home before the merge last season for me were just men that got injured. Thanks Bruce and thanks Matthew. That was really infuriating. That's why I did not bet on Bruce for the second time. Anyway, I was thankful for her quit. I don't care about quitters on the show. Yeah, it means, oh, like I could have been on that show and I wouldn't have quit. I would have fought for it. I wouldn't have just asked to vote me out immediately. And I get that. But when I was picking people that I wanted to look at, Reba and Bello were kind of hard to pick which ones I wanted the most. And Lulu was hard because it seemed like not much was going on for them. I think Sabaya and Caleb were the two that I had initially particularly liked. And then I ended up picking Emily. I think she was my last pick because I really didn't know what else to do with people presented in front of me. But yeah, it was seeming like it was going to be an interesting season with that tribe in particular, and I was very not wrong. But anyway, there's really not much to say about her. She goes home immediately. Next, I want to talk about Brandon. Now, I know I'm a small channel, I'm not a Survivor channel, but I do know that Brandon has commented on certain Survivor channels. So hi, Brandon, if you are watching, I feel like you are the most likely to want to watch because you are such a Survivor superfan. And I do mean this with absolutely no disrespect whatsoever, but it was hard to watch you at times during the season because you were struggling a lot. I think it's surprising that they made the focus of this early part of the game so based on struggles. I guess they had to figure out how to make a narrative out of this that worked. But I thought it was an interesting tone. I don't think I was really deep into this season until probably the next episode and then definitely the pre-merge episode. Yeah, I think those episodes really solidified the season as something that really got me going. So let's get into episode 3. And this is when, honestly, started loving the season. First of all, Caleb and Emily, my two lovelies, started collaborating. And the Sabaya part of her just melting the wax at Tribal because they still didn't have fire because they were never winning challenges. That was so funny. And the fact that, she had to tell everyone, yeah, this is what's happening. And then she still banked it with the 2-2. Like, when you have 4 people, you should not risk your vote like that. I don't know what that was about. You shouldn't have done it. I kind of would want to see Sabaya play again, even though pre-merge for sure is tricky to get out of that one. But, I actually found her really interesting, and I think she could do better if not put on this tribe that we had. But this honestly got me really interested in the season. I don't remember much about Reba and Bella at this time. I'm really focused on Lulu, and this is the time where Lulu actually is shining in some way. You have the rise of winning the reward challenge, then followed by the just shoot, they messed up this challenge again. Next we get into episode 4. I thought this was an interesting episode because I didn't really know what to do about it because it's with Sean, and I don't think they were going to vote him out. I think they were genuine that they were going to get Sifu out. I don't really understand why Sean went home. I understand Hannah in the sense that, hey, she probably can access her vape or whatever and also sleep in a normal bed. I bet she definitely can at Ponderosa. Sean's not seeing his husband unless he's like sued to get out of it. I don't know. Like, I didn't really understand. I understand that he's like, oh yeah, there's this journey or whatever. And that he felt like his journey was done and that other people could go on. I didn't really see the point. I think Sean could have been a really interesting person for the season. I don't know. I had potential in him. I hadn't ranked him, I don't think, super high, but he wasn't my lowest. And he definitely, I think, had potential. I mean, we never really got to see him strategize at all, but I don't know. I don't know why Sean did that at all. I really don't know. I'm sure there's interviews. I didn't really look at a lot of the interviews because, I don't know. There's the external narrative of it, but I feel like we can also make certain conjectures for ourselves that maybe even castaways might not be fully privy to understanding because it's a different part of them. Yeah, so that was a little bit more baffling, and obviously I don't think that's someone who quits the game fully willingly, and it's not because of like a medical thing or anything. I don't think that they should be asked to come back to play, but it'll be an interesting what if to think about. Next we go into episode 5 where someone who's not a Lulu goes home, originally at least, and that is with Brando. Honestly, got nothing for you. Now let's go into an episode that does really hit I was so excited to see that they were all going to be on one beach. I know some people are like, oh my god, they merged so quickly, right? Like, you only get like 6 episodes with them, and then you have, I don't know, 7 or 8 episodes after a merge. No, I would love, first of all, I would love 2 tribes of 10 or 2 tribes of 9 to start each season. I would much prefer that because I am exhausted of these small tribals where like each individual vote matters. I love to see a split the vote. I love to see when you have tribal council and votes just go everywhere because no one knows what the real plan is. I love when 5 different people get votes. It's funny. It's so funny. I love seeing like not tight alliances. I love seeing everyone just like, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if that age has sailed, but the losing your vote thing throughout the season, and I'll get into that later, but the amount of losing your votes and the amount of immunities and earning the merge, I really don't like that in the new era. I like some parts of it. I think there's some interesting of like one person losing their vote, but when it gets to more people losing their vote, or I don't know, yeah, I just don't like it when it's so tight tribals. I don't like tight tribals. I don't like small groups of people playing the game. That's something that happens at like Final 6, Final 5. But the thing is, Final 4, it doesn't even matter because you're doing the fire making thing, which is another thing I don't like. I love it when it's like the person who didn't have tight alliances at 4 goes home. Yeah, that's how it often will work. I understand sometimes why it makes sense, but I don't really care about it now. I feel like people over rely on the fire making thing to be like their ticket to the finale. And not only the ticket to finale, but the ticket to winning. And sometimes it's been the ticket to winning, and I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I just don't really see the point of that. This current point in mind, I feel like it's a bit repetitive at this point, and I'd love them to switch it up. Let's get into this episode because they are all on one beach. That's great. And the vibe is they're all going to target Caleb. Now, I don't know why they didn't all target Caleb. He could have been a swing vote for Reba or for Bello. I don't really understand the season's preoccupation a lot of the times with getting out people that just everyone disliked. It's like, if you wanted the Reba Bello war, you could have just done that. Why didn't you just do it? I would have loved to see that and see some gridlock and stuff like that. And there was not, because people were just voting out like people on the outside. And it was very weird to me. But of course, in this episode, Caleb plays his shot in the dark and it works. Finally, I was like, yes, give me just a couple more points. And it ends up with J Maya being the turnaround vote, unfortunately. Also, that was expected. I mean, that was the episode where half people had immunity. So it was really difficult to do that. So, yeah. Unfortunate for J Maya. I don't think she was going to make it far. I think hearing about what J Maya and Sifu had planned in the Pipeworks and just what I saw and how they were thinking about the game, they were playing a different game than what was on the TV. And I did find that really entertaining. Yeah, I did. Just shot and Freud away. Now we get to the episode where, yeah, they're merged, I guess. All right. And there's Sifu and Caleb both get voted out that night because of the final 12, 2 separate tribal councils. I hate this twist. I'll say it right now. I want to see 12 people try to vote one person out or 5 people out. I want to see a group of people all together and dealing with all these different things. It's way more interesting than seeing what just 6 people are doing at a time. It's not that interesting to me. I don't like that when there's this random twist that no one could expect happen, or we can't expect because we've seen it before at this point. I don't like that we're seeing that happen and we're like, shoot. Because it means that these people who had these smaller alliances can't jump onto a bandwagon. And honestly, it's starting to get into this point of begogging. I mean, this season, while I really enjoyed it, probably because of editing and the story arcs and everything, I don't like it because, like, a couple episodes later, when more than one person loses their vote, it makes it very inconsequential. It makes it like the path was decided for the season because of these type of things. And honestly, it could have been something that was actually avoided by strategic gameplay that you can't do when you just lose your vote by not competing at the highest level. So Sifu getting voted out, I don't know why they didn't just vote Bruce out at that moment, but not really much I can say about that. And Caleb going out, I mean, we knew he wasn't going to last very long, but yeah, some people blame Katura for this. I mean, it would have resulted in rocks and stuff like that. And I understand she felt like an outsider from her own tribe. I see it. I honestly understand. And I think it's kept her around to have done that switch because it showed that she wasn't reliant on Bello. So I got love for Katura. Not just because she's my player, I actually just really like her personality. Not just the Bruce hating part, but I just think she's a really interesting person that honestly the edit doesn't even do it justice, but she is an interesting person even in the edit. I'm an apologist for her, but yeah, I understand. And then she can also be like, yeah, it was a big move for me to take Caleb out, which true, it is down to her to do that. All right, now we get into the next episode, which was the auction. I really liked the auction. I had no issue with it. I did like that there was no advantages in it. The disadvantage thing was interesting in theory, but it just ended up with people outbidding each other, like fully with all their money. And I feel like, I don't know, we had to do it in order for it to be back on the radar for Survivor. Like, you have to do it, and I think they're gonna edit it again. They should edit it again. And I think, honestly, it should just be a fun thing. Because the thing is that if you're worried about, oh, you don't have the spaces in the season to do it, why not just do the auction? And then, let's just say you don't have the time. Just make it a secret scene. A big, long secret scene that you can't make it to air with it. But that there was an auction, and it's inconsequential to the game. You don't have to worry about explaining it away. Like, for example, Kendra secretly going to the Lulu Tribal Council on day 3 when Hannah leaves the game, and that's fully cut because her vote for Brandon doesn't matter because Hannah's just going. It's okay for you to cut things that we just didn't know happened. It's okay. We don't have the time in every episode, even in these long episodes, to do that. And I think just because you can't film it or you might not be able to make it into the final edit, it's okay to still film it. And it's okay to still have these things happen. I did like that auction. It was honestly a nice blast from the past. Even though I felt like certain things about like the chocolate cake with no utensils, it's just a callback to another episode from a different season. And just reminds us that, hey, some things in the old era used to just be fun. Used to not worry about things and all the stuff that super fans like. We used to just have fun sometimes and make these memorable moments. And there are some memorable moments in this show. This might also be the episode, or maybe it's an episode before, with the dancing stick bug. Loved that. Wish they could win the $1 million. I think there was a lot that was good about this, and I think especially considering the going out into the jungle and finding wads of cash, basically, and that each thing had a different amount. Like, I thought that was cool. That was a crafty thing, and I think you can do that, and you can just make it for more rewards that are not advantages in the game, and there's no disadvantages. Let's just make it fun. Why can't we just have a little bit of fun on this show? But the rest of the episode is good too. It does end in a pretty epic blindside. Pause. It's Kelly. Honestly, I thought Kelly was going to make the final 3. I'm really surprised she didn't. I mean, now that we've gotten more clarification on the people who are left in the game, sure. But Kelly was a threat. And I don't know if people really saw that, but I saw that. I was like, dang, she could win this game. At that point, she was the only woman that was left on the show who was not in my group. I still had 5 women on the show. All the people at final 10 that were women, which were 6, besides Kelly, so it was 5, were mine. So I'm getting the points overall. I don't know if I'm getting the winner, but I am getting the points overall for sure. She was the other threat, especially if a women's alliance did remain dominant, because I was like, okay, we'll have maybe Dee, Emily, Kelly. That would be a fun final tribe council, wouldn't it? That would have been so much fun. But alas, Kelly gets voted off in a pretty dramatic blindside, and she is pissed for, I think, the rest of the season. Like, she is emotional, and she's giving some great tribal reactions that I didn't know that Kelly would. So it's really exciting to see that energy and that flavor at tribal councils. I honestly love seeing jury reactions now because Kelly, our next person, and a couple people after that are all very interesting on the jury. They're all very interesting jury people that I didn't know were going to be that way. But yeah, that was a pretty great episode. Honestly, had not very many notes. I did think that Bruce losing his vote but then winning immunity is such an interesting thing. It's like immunity without power. Yeah, it's very funny. It's like the safety without power thing that Drew got but never got to use. Okay, next we have Kendra. Love you, girl. She's a lovely person. And I think this just shows the show like how much of a force D is to be reckoned with, because they could have had their pick of Kendra or was Bruce or Jake safe? I don't remember who was safe after that immunity at all. But they had their pick of Bello and other people really to work with, and D was like, Kendra said my name, vote her out. I felt bad that she got voted out in such an unceremonious fashion. This episode, honestly, I really didn't like. The 3 people losing their vote is so annoying, especially you have 9 people, right? And there's 4 people that are in a strong alliance. And they probably picked this before they knew how the castaways were going to get along with each other. However, the fact that you have these people divided into teams and that you have it, people who do the worst in the challenge, like, will lose their vote unless they gain it back through this other challenge. And I think it's ridiculous. I think losing your vote is like such an easy thing for the Survivor producers to put into a season, but it doesn't feel thought out. I think that this season shows that losing your vote is not that exciting to watch. I don't care, except for I do care because the thing is that sometimes like 6 people are voting at like a 10-person tribal council. What is going on? Give me 12 people voting on an island together. Give me 10 people voting on an island together. Give me 9 people and everyone gets to vote. Now, unless they have like an advantage that's like requiring them to risk their vote or whatever, I'm kind of okay with the risk your vote, protect your vote, because you're risking your vote. That's intentional. But when you are forcing people to risk their vote / just lose their vote, it's not fun because you're putting them in situations that they really don't get control over. And I know that, you know, Survivor's like adapting and all that stuff. But why are you putting them in this situation? I feel like it's a less severe thing of the hourglass from season 41. Like, why? I don't know why they do it like that. I think let's let people actually have a social game and have a game that revolves around people voting for them or not voting for them at the right time. I think that's important, especially when you're not allowing the enemies of a particular group to have votes. Like, why? It's not their choice that they didn't get it. It's just that they couldn't solve a math problem. But it simply is something that just needs to change because it's exhausting to watch people just lose their votes. And it's like I want to see 10 people vote someone. That's just what I want to see. Like seeing that with Caleb, that was fun. That was cool. But the problem is that there was only so many people you could vote for, which made it likely that they were going to turn towards him because a lot of the people that they probably wanted to get rid of were immune. Anyway, now we get into the next episode with Bruce going home. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of silly that the move happened because you have 4 and 4, and you know that 4 is a tight 4. I don't see how they didn't see it if they didn't, but I understand that everyone just wanted Bruce out, and like whoever was going to be responsible for taking him out was going to get some props on it because people wanted him gone and thought he was a giant threat. Was he a big threat? I don't know. I thought people just didn't like care for him on the island. I thought that was just the vibe, but like when you're already at this point, when it's day 19, it's day 19 at that point. You have 7 more days of Survivor. You have 7 more days. You can stick out with Bruce for a week if you've already hung out with him for nearly 3. In my personal opinion, he's not the big target to go. I understand that Emily was not going to be able to probably get all of Bella to work together to go against Reba and then draw rocks or utilize Bruce's idol. Maybe they could have done that, but yeah, it just didn't seem like the big plan at the time. So I understand why she went and did that. It was seen as a big move in the game, but I don't think objectively it was a big move. Bigger than some other moves, but wasn't big. Next, we have, unfortunately, the person who I wanted to win the season after like a few episodes of it is Emily going home. This is so sad. I thought the whole drama of Reba kind of collapsing and everyone's gonna vote out Julie, that was funny as heck to watch, because I was in an airport coming back from Paris and I was like, I'm just gonna watch this episode, and my day got better afterwards because it wasn't great when Emily went home, but it was very funny to see all that chaos devolve. I think it would have been funny if Julie took out like an Austin, or if Drew wasn't safe, because it could have been such a big move. I understand that she went with Emily, which is still a big move, don't get me wrong. Yeah, because Emily would have been a jury threat, I think. But it was such a crazy episode to watch that I can't be mad at it. I'm just a little mad that Emily, first off, took credit for the Bruce move immediately. She shouldn't have done that. Why did you do that, girl? You should have totally not done that. You should have definitely held that to yourself, and that's an unleash at final tribal council thing. That's something when people think, oh, I can just take her to the end. No one could take you to the end after that. So that was a big misstep for her. And the winning versus losing your vote thing, I understand you don't have that many votes at that point. You definitely should have tried to compete and just said, hey, you lost your vote or whatever. Even if you didn't and you won, no, they would have known she got immunity. But yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity for her. I understand that she wasn't great at challenges, so fair enough. But I think when you already picked to go on the boat, you just gotta do it, frankly. And also, I might be getting this wrong, but didn't Julie say that she was gonna play her idol when she was going rogue, and that she was just gonna pick whoever? Or was she just saying that, like, I'm down to do whatever with the rest of you guys to make a move? But I don't know. I think it could have been a bigger move from Julie to do that. I think it would have been a good opportunity to work with her, because, yeah, you got to take out big threats. If you don't think Julie is a big threat, which I guess everyone did think Julie was a big threat, I still don't see that. But whatever. It was, unfortunately, a weird way for Emily to leave the game, if I'm being honest. And her actions in that episode are honestly just not characteristic of the rest of her game, in my opinion. Now, we get to our most recent vote out with the vote out of Drew. This is fun, honestly. The fact that Dee does not reciprocate and leaves Austin out of the know of it. I'm interested to see how it turns out in the finale, because I don't know. But I think it was probably a good move. I feel like Drew would take credit for a lot of things, but people might also get annoyed at him. I don't know how bitter this jury is going to get, but I think their reactions just feel a little more bitter than a lot of the New Era seasons. I feel like New Era is recognizing game and stuff like that. And I think, generally speaking, everyone left in the game, I don't think anyone's going to be that annoyed at them. Like, Jake wasn't in control of much. Dee, like, we respect the heck out of her. Austin, how do you dislike Austin? How do you dislike Mama Julie? That's why you were trying to vote her out. She was just playing the way that she needed to in order to continue playing, because you kept trying to vote her out. And then we have Katura, which I don't think she's been really that responsible for many moves. Might have the wool over my eyes on that part, but I don't think the jury's going to be bitter towards any of the people who could potentially be in the final tribal council. But I think people would be bitter at Drew, maybe, or be bitter at certain people. They just might be annoyed with them. And I don't think anyone who's left is considered annoying by the rest of the tribe. But I could be wrong. And that's not to say that Drew is annoying by any means. I just think that some people on the jury, when Drew was talking, seems like they could have been really annoyed about it. It was very satisfying to see people be overconfident and then get voted out. That's one of my favorite times to see in Survivor, someone being overconfident and then just going home. Okay, now I'm going to talk about conjectures for the finale. So this is not based on any knowledge at all, besides the knowledge from the past episodes. I don't know anything about the finale fully. I just know who's in it. Honestly, I think Dee should win if she makes it to the final three. I don't see a world in which she shouldn't win in the final three. If she doesn't make it to the final three because she gets idled out by Jake, or everyone turns on her, or she loses in fire or something like that, that is a different story. But I think if Dee makes it to the final three, she should win. That's it. I think people online have really said, oh, Julie is not a threat at the end. But so many people have wanted to vote her out, and she's still there. People don't even vote out the moms normally. Like, they just don't get that many votes at the end, or they lose in fire or something like that, or they just have to get rid of someone because of certain twists and stuff like that. But people have wanted to get rid of Julie. Julie's gotten many votes, or a lot of votes that were attempted on her, but she's still hanging on. She's doing great. And honestly, if Dee doesn't make it, but Julie does, and especially if Julie's responsible for cutting Dee, I think Julie could also win this game. And maybe that's just me being like, oh yeah, I love my girls. But I honestly think Julie's a force to be reckoned with, because why does everyone love her? I mean, everyone loves her because of who she is, of course. But people keep wanting to vote her out because they think she's a jury threat. And honestly, if they keep being like, oh yeah, I'd vote for her if she gets to the end, then they will. So I think Julie won't beat Dee, because I think Dee can explain how Julie kind of just helped her along, and she's definitely the less assertive of the pair. But I don't think Julie is that far away from winning. I think Austin has a really tough time, and I didn't think Austin would. I thought Austin would be like, oh yeah, you got 2 idols, you know, he could show like dominance in that he's friendly. People aren't writing his name down. No one's written his name down, right? I still don't think so. So that's really good. That means he has a good social strategy, but that also means he's not like a threat. I mean, he's won challenges, but I think he won't win versus Dee or Julie. And if Jake does pull something to cause Dee/Julie to not be in the final 3, I don't see how Austin wins, because I think Jake would then overtake him in terms of power. And he's used both of his idols very poorly. The idol he gave to Julie threatened his plan. Well, Drew's plan, but also his plan that he went along with. And then him just not helping out Drew at all, not knowing anything about the fact that they were going to try to vote out Drew. He's not showing that he is on the right side of every vote. He's on the right side of many votes, but no votes that he necessarily orchestrated. Because I think he does try to follow a bit so that he's more likable, because he's not the one who has the blow in his hands. For Jake, I don't think he should win. Respectfully, Jake, unless it's stuff I don't know that's only in the finals. But he has such a good edit. Why is his edit so good? Is it just because he made it to this point and then we're going to see him fumble the bag? Or are we going to get the epic payoff of the fact that like each move he tries, it doesn't work out, but this one he's going to make and it's going to like stick the landing. You're going to be like, oh yes, that's going to be amazing. That would be really cool. I'd really respect that. We'd probably get that type of game that we get from the times where Edge's Extinction happens, where someone makes it to the final 3 who was on the edge of extinction for most of the time. And yeah, I feel like it would be odd, because it's like your mind can change so much in this period. I actually don't know how long the episode is. Is it still 90 minutes? Is it longer? 2 hours? 3 hours? I have no idea how long it is. But if all of the stuff that happens in that episode is the only reason why you win, it's weird to watch. I think with Gabler, like, we saw some moves that he made, but he really was under the radar, and I guess it was because so many people in the final 5 got voted out, the final 6 and all that. Like, they got voted out or lost in fire right at the end. We ended up just having more people that didn't have that strong of an edit and seemed like they weren't making the most of their own game. But I do think that Jake here has such a good edit that if he's in the final 3, I get nervous. And I don't know why I get nervous, but I get nervous. And I think Dee absolutely should win over Jake at this current moment. And I would say even Julie deserves to win over Jake at this current moment. But I have a suspicion that, like, if Jake does win, I will probably be surprised, but I'm not that surprised. Like, I will be confused. That's the right word. I don't know why he'll win, but if he wins, I had a premonition about it. Katurah, she doesn't have that good of an edit, but I kind of do want to see her do well. I do want to see her make Final Trap, because if she does, then I do get more points. But I don't think she has a chance of winning. I'm so sorry. I love you, Katurah. If you are seeing this, like, I am a big fan of you. Please send me a message. It will make my week, probably. And yeah, I honestly would love to get in contact with you. You just seem like a lovely person. I would love to just get to know you as a person because you just seem so genuine and human, and you've gone through a lot. But I really appreciate you being super vulnerable on the show. Yeah. I hope you do well. And if you do win, it will be a big surprise, honestly, to me. But I will heavily support it. Austin or Jake win? I don't know. I don't support them as much as I would support Katurah win. I don't know why you win, but there's got to be something in the finale that means you win if that happens. Again, like Jake, there has to be a reason why. And I don't think we've been set up season-wise for that. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible or that you don't deserve to win. It just means that the edit really doesn't like you as much. But if any of my girls win, I will be supportive. Austin, I still like as a person. I just don't think it would make sense. It would kind of just feel like the formats of certain old seasons where even when, women are playing very smartly and maybe under the radar sometimes or just not in a conventional way, they just turn towards the men and they're like, oh, well, the man did all these moves. And that's not necessarily true, and that's not often even true. It's often easier for men to be considered likable after making these cutthroat moves. But I honestly respect Dee for doing the same thing as a woman. And I think she should get the credit for it because she's doing that and she's still here. And she hasn't played an idol on herself. She's never played an idol on herself. So honestly, kudos to her. If she makes it to Final 3, she should win. And that is my thought on that. Thank you for your support so far. I will come back to you with my thoughts on the finale as well as how I feel about the season ending in general and maybe some other points of feedback that weren't already covered here. So I will see you tomorrow. All right, let's get into this finale. Yes, I am aware of who wins the season. If you want to click off and make sure you watch the finale, I don't know how non-spoiler I can get from here. But yeah, please pause if you need to go do that. Now let's get into this finale episode. It was wild because the final 5 episode, what the heck? Oh my gosh. Okay. Because, Jake's like, oh, I'm gonna get the votes here. And then both him and Katurah are agreeing to go on D. And then Katurah switches her vote last minute. Why? I mean, iconic for doing it. Because Katurah just being a factor in the season is just really fun to see. Yeah, I honestly really enjoyed it. I feel bad for Julie, who went home from that. But seeing that chaotic tribal, that's the type of chaotic tribal I wish that I would see more often when you have so many other votes to be accounted for. This voting history in this episode is what I want to see more often in the show, but because we're having all these people lose their votes or having these people not be on tribes of big people, we're not getting to see that. And I hope for this next season that we get to see that. Katurah did cost Jake basically a shot at winning because you don't really have much to do with that at all. But it would have been really funny to see Jake go home. But everyone splitting was so funny. I'm like, you have 5 people. She split it. It was a great TV moment. But it feels weird that's in the finale. But then we get into Final 4, Dee winning, Jake breaking the challenge. Pretty iconic. They are really giving Jake this Charlie Brown moment that I keep hearing people compare him to Charlie Brown online. That he keeps trying to go for that football, but Lucy, or the show itself, really just keeps picking up that football and he just falls flat on his back. And yeah, it's funny, but probably not fun for him at all. I mean, him dropping his keys and then him missing that puzzle piece in Final 5, pleading to do fire, which honestly was such a smart move for Dee not to let Austin do fire and take Katurah out. I don't know, was Katurah a threat to win? If she was, it would have been really fun to see her win, but I just don't think she was going to win. So I did find it cool that they were putting Katurah as a threat because I love Katurah. I want to support her. And so her being labeled as a threat is great because that means that she was doing stuff that I wasn't quite aware of. Because the show wasn't really letting us be aware of because they were just talking about how much she hates Bruce. But Katurah goes out at fire and then we make it to the Final 3. And that Final 3, the way they edited that was wild because they did make me think that any of them had a chance. Really, that Jake had a chance. And the fact that Jake got no votes, like, he's the Carolyn somehow in the season. I mean, they always turn to them in confessionals, and we always like hearing from them. But somehow they just don't win. And I thought that Jake had at least a couple votes going his way. But then, they were showing the previews of who people were voting for, and we weren't seeing any Jake names. And I was like, okay, maybe they'll just give those 2 to D and 2 to Austin, and then we'll go further. But no, Jake didn't get any, which I was surprised. I thought maybe also with the D and Austin having similar strategies that they could split their votes that way, and that Jake would get maybe some Bello votes or just some other votes, especially like from Caleb. Caleb's a really smooth talker, and it seemed like he was really into Jake and trying to get him to win. It was interesting to see that that wasn't the case, and that we had nearly a tie, which was very exciting to see. I'm glad that we didn't have like a smooth victory, but I did really like seeing the winner win, which is in fact D, as you probably know if you're watching this, and I really enjoyed it. I loved her. She was one of my players I had picked. Sad that both Julie and Katurah didn't make it, so I really had 1 in 3 chance of having my person win, but she played the strongest game. I think we found that this season was sometimes predictable, but honestly there was a lot of times where people were making moves or trying to make moves that just didn't make sense, or people were not making moves that would have made a lot of sense because they were afraid. And I think Dee using that power to an advantage, like, she was lucky, but I think she's not the luckiest winner. I think Gabler's a luckier winner because of who he ended up sitting next to and how he was able to tell a story through that, and kind of, I don't know if that was like fully a strategy or if he was just like, this works with what people have seen and it'll make me the best candidate of the 3 people that are still here. I do think that Dee did play the best game. I was very surprised that it actually was that close to a tie. I thought those 2 votes for Austin were pretty much all he was getting, but I'm surprised that we had that. We had Kendra, who really was giving just loving Austin energy. Drew obviously did that. That made sense. Bruce voting for Austin, I guess maybe that comment that Dee made, like, you should have played your idol, and Bruce being a little sensitive about that. He probably was a little sensitive about it. I feel like the cast was sensitive, but I think a lot of them did vote with their head on this one. And yeah, I did really like Emily's confessional about it. Like, if you spend 1 penny on this man, I'm gonna take that million away from you. Which I don't think Dee's gonna do that. I think Dee's really doing it for her family first, rather than a guy that she spent, 26 days-ish with. Yeah, I think she's smart enough for that. But yeah, I'm excited to see if any romance has developed since then. I don't know if they've made a comment. I know it's all pretty new, but yeah, I'd love to hear from you all, as well as anyone who is on the season. Please, my email is in my about section. Please send me an email. I would love to hear from you, or just send a comment if you don't want to talk long term. You just want to be like, hey, nice. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching this season. I think the 90-minute episodes worked wonders. I'm excited for season 46. Looks like it's going to be all new people. There's some pretty iconic people in the first look, so I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I think that's how I feel. I think overall thoughts for the future, I think I cover them when I was wearing my Christmas sweater, but I think the vibes of not having everyone lose their vote, great. Having 2 tribes instead of 3 tribes. They also mentioned like a new tribe is emerging, which felt odd to just say that in the trailer. Like, is that meaning that it's 1 tribe? It would be really cool. It's 1 tribe. I want to see the chaos from the beginning. Oh my god, can you imagine? Like, no tribe swaps, no nothing. Merged from the beginning. Oh, yeah. I would like it to be less formulaic. I think the season was fairly formulaic. And I mean, all the new era is fairly formulaic. I mean, you have some twists that they're doing every so often, but the idea of, oh yeah, you do this, then people are doing really bad, we're going to do a tribe swap because it's clearly not working. I don't know if they prepare that ahead of time or if they do it for that episode, because it feels like, hey, they need to do a tribe swap for this season. And also, I think a lot of times where they do a tribe swap, it makes sense why they do it, because it's getting boring to watch. But yeah, I think we're getting, I don't know, this weird vibe of like, oh, you gotta earn the merge, you gotta earn each thing, like each part just has to happen. And I think to keep the series interesting, especially if you're not doing any branded titles for things and you're just having new people be part of this beach, I think you got to do something to make it a little more different and to excite us, and not just in a losing your vote type of way. I think that's the main thing. I would love to see a returner season. I know it's not going to be a 46, I don't think, but I could see, All Stars was season 7, so season 47 could be a good All Stars season from people of the new era, maybe some people from before the new era. I don't have any people I'm like really rooting necessarily from before the new era to come back, but just because it's so far away in my head, and the pandemic really, you have a lot of thoughts that are pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, at least I do, and so I think there's a lot of things that they could do and bring back from before then, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the people per se. There's some people that I think would be really interesting to see come back, but I feel like it does feel a little like two different games, and I think if we start bringing old things back to make it feel a little like the old game, then I think I could consider having old players return as well. But I also would just love a returners season. I think those are just way more interesting to watch. I think those are just the best seasons generally that Survivor has created. I think if Survivor is trying to have a viral moment, have its attention ratings and stuff like that, I think bringing back returners, whether it's all returners or half returners, I think will help push the game forward, and I think it'll push ratings higher. And I think it's time. We started having this era in 2021, the new era, and it's going to be 2024 at least. So hopefully that's what we're getting in the near future. That's what I'm hoping for. But I did enjoy this season. This is my favorite in the new era. I think it's because we were able to develop these narratives. I think the cast was very good, even when some people on the show were not good strategically. And I don't need to name them yet, but I think that's all my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I don't have a ton of people that I talk to directly about this, so I would love to generate online discussions. I love going on to other people's Survivor YouTube channels and commenting and talking with people about things. But I would really love to talk about it. And it's a great season because I, for the third time, have had the player I was rooting for specifically win. I had Dee, I had Wendell, and who was the other person? I had Sarah. So yeah, all very interesting winners. I don't remember how well Sarah did the final trial counts in terms of votes, but I keep having people come down to the wire with Wendell and Dee. Nearly 2 ties. Well, one was a tie, but broke the tie. But anyway, if you like this video, please like it, this, comment down below, what to do next on my channel. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already and you'd like to be, and thanks for watching. This is TurtleStormer. Catch you later.
Get out of the dark.